my full name is Kristina with a K and Shea.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Herstory TV and the Herstory podcast. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Wellington, New Zealand. And tonight I am blessed with the presence of yet another fascinating lady coming to us all the way from Canada this time. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Tell everybody your full name, where you're based, how old you are, and share your story with us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me on here today. I'm really excited to share and, just interact and engage in any dialogue and really about my life, but also just about other women as well. So my full name is Kristina with a K and Shea. So Kristina with a K and Shea like the butter, like I always say, because people always pronounce it incorrectly. I'm from just outside Toronto in Canada. So I live in Burlington, which is about 45 minutes away. In beautiful Toronto, a bit cloudy and rainy, but it's still beautiful. And a little bit about me. Is that what you want me to share? Just sort of a background of my story?
Yeah, where would you say is the most pivotal part of your story? Where does it actually begin?
Well, I think it actually probably begins, I've been widowed twice, so I'll start when I was 24 years old. So at 24 years old, I married my high school sweetheart. He was a bit older than I, but we've been together for quite some time, since I was 15. And suddenly and tragically, he died in a motorcycle accident, which, as at a young age like that, I really didn't even know who I was. So it was very sudden. It was unexpected. I had to move out of my home at the time. I ended up leaving my job. Like, it was just like everything that could happen in 1 year. It was just traumatic on every level. I remember fainting at the funeral. I collapsed when they told me that he had passed away, because it was just an awful story. And I had to identify him in the hospital, which you can only imagine. He was hit by a truck. So I don't want to get into the grisly details, but it was, I still live with those pictures in my mind. So I was starting to work in my career at that time, and I'd switched over actually to another company because I wasn't happy where I was. I was struggling financially, but it was just myself. And I met another gentleman, but it was maybe a little too soon, to be honest, but he was quite a bit older than I, and 14 years actually. And we worked together in sort of the similar arena, working with banks. He had a totally different sector. So I was working there, and I was already starting to be overworked, and, I was trying to do that hustle because I wanted to be successful, quote unquote. I always wanted my parents' affirmation, which to be honest, I've never really received. So that was part of the reason why I was always hustling so hard, but there's more to that. So then I met my second husband, and we got married very quickly. I was really not quite emotionally ready. So it was only a couple of years later, maybe less than that. And, but out of that, I had a beautiful daughter, honeymoon baby. My daughter's name is Chloe. And unfortunately, my husband, though, he had his own demons, let's just say that. And alcohol was one of them. And he had a lot of health issues and mental health issues that went along with that. So it's really unfortunate. So I actually, we did separate, but we became very, very close friends. Like, he was in my family. He was the man I still call when I needed something. He was always around, and I wanted my daughter to really know her father. And so that was worked out really well. And as I said, he was still my best friend. We just lived in different homes. So yeah. And then what happened was, after we separated a few years later, as I said, we were really very close. We talked every day. And it was actually Valentine's Day, and it was family day here, what we call in Canada too. And I usually called him, but I had sort of an incident that I had to deal with, and I didn't call him. And then the next day he didn't show up for work, and I had tried calling and I never could get through, but he actually died suddenly of a heart attack. So yes, it was unexpected again, just suddenly and tragically. And the worst moment in my life was telling my daughter, who was 15 at the time, that her dad had passed away. I'll never, and it prompted her on some anxiety and other issues herself, which are her issues, but she's doing very well right now. I'm very, very, very proud of her. But all during that span, and, especially even while I was separated, I was the sole breadwinner. I couldn't not count on him financially, because he actually had filed for bankruptcy. while we were together. So it was very high pressure for me too, because I wanted to keep her home. I hustled, I grinded. I also took courses to like just to further my career. So I was taking university courses full time, working full time. I really don't know how I did it. I really slept about 3 hours a night. So I really did a corporate burnout, and I was diagnosed with a brain cyst, which was detrimental for, I was suffering from migraines constantly and just in extreme pain. And I just thought it was stress and headaches, you know. And then one day I actually collapsed in the financial district, and where I was working downtown Toronto. And I was rushed to the hospital, and they did a series of multitude of tests, including CAT scan and MRI and all that. So they actually diagnosed me first with brain cancer, which was awful. And then they discovered it was a cyst, but that cyst was causing issue. I decided though not to, at that point I was actually running my consulting firm, but I was working for some of the banks that I'd already worked for before. So I was like, you know, doing well, but not getting any sleep, obviously. And then they told me that I could do surgery, but I decided not to because I could potentially lose my eyesight, which, you know, with no benefits or anything at that time, it was not something that I thought I could do, because if I risked that, I mean, what am I going to do? I won't be able to support my daughter. So I looked at alternative health, but I was really also really dependent on painkillers. So I learned to wean myself off of those, because it was really causing obviously issues in my life. I was very functional at work, but I wasn't, you know, I was exhausted when I come home. I couldn't really be functional I was a good mom still, but I wasn't my best. Let's just put it that way. So yeah, so from there, I just started to incorporate wellness into my life, which before it was really, I suppose, trendy, and doing things like meditation and yoga, and really finding some fitness in my life. But then I got lured back to a very high pressure position that was a life science company. And then I was later their SVP of communications. And again, I was put into it's just a cycle of crazy, to be honest. Again, that crazy cycle of hours. And after I was actually then just recently, I mean, during the pandemic, I was laid off, but I was honestly relieved in one way, because I had then just been diagnosed a few weeks after that, actually, with extreme hypertension. I know it sounds like a crazy thing. Well, you know, it was just the stress of it all. And not only just a little bit of hypertension, I was in stroke zone. And when I went into the hospital, they're like, you're not leaving here for a good couple of days, maybe. So they figured it all out. So I'm on, you know, but I'm also now, so that was really a big wake up call. That was in the very, very, very beginning of the pandemic. You know, I think the stress of it all, combined with everything I'd gone through, and I was in extreme corporate burnout. So I decided to pivot my career, at least for right now. I never say never, I'll go back to corporate America, but right now I have no desire. And so I'm starting a new wellness company, Lifestyle, which will be incorporating natural, non-toxic products, which I've been using for many years, because I believe in, you know, a lot of those things do accumulate into your body, which I can talk about later. But so I'm really on a path to help elevate wellness and women as a whole. And that's what Blue Skies Life is all about. And Blue Skies is spelled with a Y, because it's all about your why and your purpose.
Oh, wow. I don't know where to start to ask you questions. You sound like you have lived many, many, many lives. My condolences to the passing of both your husbands.
Thank you.
We're living at a time right now where a lot of people are going through something similar. Family, friends are dying, husbands, spouses. How did you cope?
It's a very good question.
You say to somebody who's lost someone right now, you know, based on your experience?
Well, I would tell them definitely not to tell, you know, people used to tell me that all the time, that I was so strong, and I didn't feel that. So I would never tell somebody, oops, oh my gosh, my phone. I'm just going to turn it off. Because I was so tired of people telling me that I was strong, because I didn't feel strong. I mean, you only have two choices. It was to go on or not to go on. And don't believe me, I still felt the pain and the despair and depression. And I felt like I was falling down a well, you know, like in a deep hole. And I really was, I knew that I had to keep climbing my way out to get to the light, essentially. And really, my daughter was probably the most important incentive for me, because I didn't feel like I had a choice. I had to be there for her. I don't really have support in a family sense or any other way
Wow.
that I felt would be good for her. So yeah, so that was my strongest incentive. But I think, my best advice would be to take day by day
Yeah.
and try to think of the things that you're grateful for. Just, it could be something simple. For me, one of it was, I remember this from my first husband, actually. That's why I've called my company also Blue Skies. When he passed away, I remember lying on the grass and I was, just honestly devastated, and I didn't want to live, I'll be honest, but I didn't have my daughter at that time. And I can talk about it now, but honestly, I wanted to die and I stopped eating. And so I didn't want to eat. And so I purposely in my mind decided that I was going to die. And it's a really hard thing for me to say, but I think a lot of people who are going through devastating loss, I've known him, I'm going to get all emotional, but I've known him since I was 15. So by 24, it was like, I didn't even know who I was without him. But I was lying on the grass and I was looking at the blue skies, and I thought, this is a beautiful, wonderful world. And I'm going to try to live my life with him in it still, because I'll feel like he's always with me and experiencing all of the things that go along with me living my life. So the blue skies always gave me hope. And even though some days would be really stormy or rain clouds like today, I always felt that the next day would be a blue skies, or maybe the week after. But, the sun will always shine tomorrow, or at least come up. And, if you don't get through, I think the storms and the weathering those storms give you the strength. But yeah, my best advice would be to feel, to reinstate, which is a lot of people talk about, but gratitude for the little things you have, but experience and appreciate those small moments. Maybe it's going through nature and going through the forest, or smelling flowers, or looking up at the sky as I did, and take each day, day by day.
At a time. One day at a time.
Yes.
Wow. So now you have been displaced, you've lost your job, there's a global pandemic. How were you dealing with the stress of all of that? Was it the fact that you had already started down the path of meditation and health and wellness? Did that help?
Yes, very much, because I had started doing that when I had first been diagnosed with the brain cyst. So yoga, of course, all the gym classes and all the yoga classes had been canceled. So that was really hard on me, because I found, for another thing I would tip for any women or anybody going through hardship, is essentially to keep exercise or movement into your life, whatever that is. And I actually had found dance as a therapeutic outlet. Not that I profess to be a ballerina or anything like that, but whether it's dancing in your living room or you're going to take some dance classes. Now, a lot of these things, as I said, were canceled, and, you weren't able to go in class and meet people. So I used some apps and things like that. And it's definitely not the same, but it was good. And then also having a network, and I didn't necessarily know people, but these social media apps that are around. I'm just starting to get into Clubhouse, but there's Zoom events, there's all sorts of things. So I was going on Eventbrite and that, just to keep my emotional sanity, because I really did feel, oh my God, I've lost my job. And, I worked so hard for this position, and I dedicated ridiculous amount of hours. And at the end of the day, they just don't care, to be frank. So you're out, and they've got their focus, and I knew I had to focus on myself. So the yoga online, I would do a lot of that, and meditation was a big thing. And even if you can't do it on your own, those guided meditations that you find online or apps really helps ground you, and the breath work. And when you feel overwhelmed, just to take that deep breath and, exhale all the doubts and negativity and all that, and just try to visualize a better day, a better life, a better existence, and everything will be okay.
Wow. Yeah, it's interesting you talk about breathing. A lot of times when you are in an emotional, stressful situation, you do not breathe to the full capacity of your lungs. It sounds simple, it sounds easy, but I lost my mom during the pandemic.
I'm so sorry.
And panic attacks. We actually lost my mother-in-law 3 weeks before my mother. So both my husband and I didn't manage to go back to our respective countries to bury our parents. And breathing.
Yes. And I always talk about that, because I used to not ever talk about my story either. And I would hold, working in kind of corporate America, you hold it all in, you bottle it in. and you don't even breathe properly because you're so used to just, I didn't want to show my vulnerabilities or my cracks, as I like to say. And it just became really unhealthy because the way you breathe every day, it's not healthy. And if you're just inhaling and exhaling and taking those moments to calm down, it's so much more grounding and gives you that space and a little bit of time, even if it's just for 30 seconds, to reset.
That is so true. I really commend you for starting a new business at a time like this. Do you think that it is quite timely with the way the world is right now, that a lot of people are needing ways to cope with what's going on, just to keep things together? How are you finding things business-wise launching this new initiative?
Well, it's been exciting. Of course, it's a little frightening, a little scary. I'll be honest. It's not like all, I did, have some life savings that I did put away. So I am, dipping into those. There's a reality. So I want to make this work. But at the end of the day, I find it exciting. I do find it frightening at the same time. I do feel right now, just in the space that I'm in, wellness is essential, right? People are really evaluating mental health, products they use, how they live their life. And women in particular, I think a lot of them, have done a lot of things like I did, that hustle and grind. I'm not saying that it's not for, maybe some people enjoy it. And I did enjoy it for a period of time, but then it became really heavy and it wasn't the way like I wanted to see my life. And it wasn't how I defined success. And now I define success very differently. I want to be passionate and be able to do what I do. If I'm going to work that hard, I'd rather work for myself. And I also didn't want to, I think Amazon, Jeff Bezos, he has I think it's called the regret framework, which I really identified with because he asked his 80-year-old self, because this was the beginning when he had just started his business. Do I think I should try this internet thing, right? And I loved that because I was like, that really made me think, because you know what? I've been thinking about doing it for quite so many years, but I was scared, to be honest, of doing it. And I thought it's now or never. And at least I could say I tried. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I'm very humble about it. But, if I don't want to be, I hope to live to be 101, but I do not want to be on my deathbed thinking, oh, what if I'd done that? And I spent all my life working in something that I'm not passionate or feel fulfilled about.
So now it's about fulfillment. So my last question for you is, it sounds to me like you discovered that your health is your wealth. A lot of times we push to a point where the body can't take it anymore. And so we manifest all of these symptoms, and we literally create them in our lifestyles. Am I correct?
Yes, absolutely. So a lot of the things that we have defined as success, I always call it like sick people become sick because of their lifestyle. It's often a mindset. And I just need to reframe that. You don't necessarily need that fancy car and that fancy house. It means nothing if you get sick and you can't enjoy it, or you're passing away, that's what you worked this hard for. I don't think anybody, when they're on their final days would think, I wish I worked more.
No.
Definitely I work hard, and I will be working very hard at my own business, but at least I feel that it's something that will fulfill my heart, because it's part of my passion is to elevate not just wellness, but to elevate women and help them live the natural life. And yes, and I define health as wealth. So, or wealth is health, but I've spelled it out like well, WELLTH, because I'm from the financial area or sector. I thought that was very fitting. I'm sure other people have thought of it too, but yes, I think health is wealth, and you really have to think of it that way. And also time is the most precious commodity that we have. And it's something that you'll never get it back. But people think they have all this time in the world, and you should make it count, because I think leaving a positive legacy, that's how I would like to leave the world, in a better place, help women, but also leave the planet in a better place, because Blue Skies Life is also about sustainability and social justice and conscious choices and ethical trade and all of those things, and helping other women that are in women-led businesses. So I feature a lot of the products that I enjoy naturally, but I'm also in the midst of formulating my own skincare line. So there's lots going on. Yes.
Fantastic. Kristina, thank you so much for this interview. You are inspiring, you are uplifting. I love the way you're living your life right now and just honoring yourself, prioritizing what's really important, your beautiful daughter, and choosing, making that choice where your life will go from here. Thank you for the inspiration. And thank you to everybody who tuned in today. I think this is a story that kind of slaps us in the face to realize that life is brief, it is fleeting, it is short, and you get the choice. You get to make the choice how you're going to live the rest of your life with consciousness and with meaning. So come back again tomorrow. I'll be interviewing yet another amazing lady. This is Gertrude Mache in Wellington, New Zealand. Kristina, thank you so much. And have a fantastic evening wherever you are in the world. It could be morning, could be afternoon, but bye for now. Thank you.